Thank you, DCA moderator. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the California Acupuncture Board full board meeting. My name is Dr. Amy Matecki. I am the president of the board. Today is Thursday, June 24th, 2021. We present for the first day of a two-day acupuncture board meeting. This meeting is being held via WebEx. This is an official business meeting of the Acupuncture Board. Pursuant to the provisions of Governor Newsom's Executive Order N-25-20, dated March 12, 2020, neither a public location nor teleconference locations are provided for this meeting. For all those wish to participate in this WebEx events meeting, please log on at the board website posted agenda on the day of this meeting. Since the meeting is conducted via WebEx, I will ask all board members and speakers to announce themselves by name before speaking for clarity of the official record. The board welcomes the public comments on any item on the agenda. It is the board's intent to ask for public comments prior to the board taking actions on any agenda item. Individuals listening to the meeting will have an opportunity to provide public comment and will be assisted by the DCA moderator, who will be facilitating the teleconferencing process. The DCA moderator will explain the process for providing the public comments shortly. This meeting will be recorded. The time is now 12:32 p.m. Policy Analyst, Mr. David Bergman, could you please take a roll call to establish a quorum?
Of course, President Matecki. When I call your name, please let us know that you're here. Dr. Matecki?
Present.
Kitman Chan?
Present.
Dr. Yongping Chen?
Present.
John Harabedian? And we've been indicated that Mr. Harabedian will not be with us today, but he will join us tomorrow. Francisco Kim?
Present.
Shudong Li?
Present.
Ruben Osorio? Member Osorio, are you here?
This is the moderator. Member Osorio, if you are speaking, you are currently muted.
Member Osorio, can you hear us?
This is the moderator. Let me try unmuting Board Member Osorio's line and see if that helps.
Thank you. Member Osorio, can you hear us now?
With what? You want to put in engine brakes on it? What year is it?
He seems otherwise occupied at the moment. Go ahead and mute him, please. President Matecki, I'm showing 5 members present. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Bergman. I know Mr. Osorio early was logged in, so let's try to reach him, but we can start to proceed. So let's move on to agenda item number 2, President remarks. Welcome, everyone. I would like to thank members of the public, schools, and stakeholders who have been working closely with the board. Thank you so much for your support of the occupational analysis survey. This information from the survey will help the board fulfill its mission to protect, benefit, and inform the people of California by exercising the licensing, regulatory, and enforcement mandate of Acupuncture Licensure Act and acupuncture regulations. I would like to especially thank our board members who are not only having to address their personal and professional commitments during this pandemic, but who also continue to voluntarily fulfill their commitment to the board and the staff. The staff appreciates your dedication and hard work. Please note agenda item number 14, report from Education and Research Committee Chair has been postponed to the August board meeting due to member availability. Thank you for your understanding. Now let's move on to agenda item number 3. The board will now hear public comment on items not on the agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. I will now turn it over to the DCA moderator if any members of the public would like to make a comment. DCA moderator, could you please facilitate the public comments? Thank you.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment for items not on the agenda, please click that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. We will get instructions up in just a moment. And we will share these instructions each time for your reference. And typically in the Ask field in the lower right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, please type, I would like to make a public comment, and send to all panelists. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, this is the moderator. It appears there are no requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
All right, the Q&A panel is now closed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item number 4. Mr. Bodea, do you have any new update on public comments received by the board?
Thank you, Madam President. If I may ask for a point of order so that we can go back to roll call and see if Mr. Member Osorio is available.
Oh, sure, please.
Thank you. Moderator, if we could do a sound check for Member Osorio or a roll call along with
Yes, this is the moderator. Member Osorio, are you able to unmute your microphone?
Yes, I did. I'm sorry.
Wonderful,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bergman, if you'll please note that Member Osorio is in attendance.
I have made the notation. Thank you.
Certainly. For agenda item number 4, public comments received by the board. In the time since our last board meeting, we did receive 3 messages from stakeholders voicing opposition on AB 918. These were not included in this packet as the AB 918 is now turned into a 2-year bill and is no longer on the legislative calendar for this year. Outside of that, no other comments were received. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bodea. I will now turn it over to the DCA moderator if any members of the public would like to make a comment. DCA moderator, could you please facilitate the public comments?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, this is the moderator, and it appears there are no requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right, the Q&A panel is now closed.
So now let's move on to agenda item number 5. Review and possible approval of the March 2021 board quarterly meeting minutes. You all have reviewed the minutes? Would any board member like to discuss them? Hearing none. Is there any motion or second? Please unmute your phone to make a motion or second. Thank you. Any board member like to make a motion?
This is Yong Ping. I'd like to make a motion to approve the March, forgot the date, March meeting minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Do I have a second from the board member?
I
please?
second that.
Thank you.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Mr. Kidd, this is
Yes, sir.
Mr. Osorio.
Hey, how you doing? Yes.
Thank you. So we have the board minutes, March 2021, approved by Dr. Chen, moved by Dr. Chen, and seconded by Mr. Osorio. Mr.
We call for
Brookman. Okay.
public comment.
Oh, yes. Let's open up to the public comments. DCA moderator, could you please facilitate? Thank you.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, it appears there are no requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right, the Q&A panel is now closed.
Okay, so Mr. Brookman, let's take a roll call to approve the minutes.
Of course. The motion is to approve the March 2021 board meeting minutes, moved by member Chen, seconded by member Osorio. When I call your name, please let me know whether you're voting yes, no, or abstain. Dr. Matecki,
Yes.
Mr. Chen,
Yes.
member Chan,
Yes.
Member Kim,
Yes.
member Lee,
Yes.
and member Osorio.
Yes.
Madam President, I show 6 votes in favor, none in opposition. With member Herdt is not with us today, so the motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Mr. Brookman. Now let's move on to agenda item number 6, Executive Officers Report. Mr. Bodea, please.
Thank you kindly, Madam President. I will defer to our DCA budget office for the update. I believe Madam Nguyen is here for that. Sorry, no, Milano.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hi, my name is Nuyet. I'm one of the budget analysts in the budget office, and I'll be discussing the fund condition and the expenditure projection report.
Please do.
Is it supposed to go to the next slide to show the fund condition.
The slides
this
don't
is-
have the actual data that are in the materials. The materials are provided separately to the public and the members. And so they'll be able to follow along to what you're saying if you just describe the
Oh,
item
I
you're
see.
looking at.
Okay. Okay, so looking at the fund condition, it's the general overview of projections and where the board is heading based on the expenditures and revenues. Looking at the current year 2021 column, we have the beginning balance of 3.7 million. The current year revenue are projections based from fiscal month 10. Moving down the chart for transfers and other adjustments, the negative 186,000 was a required loan that we had to give to the state to help the general fund shortages this year. However, if we needed the 168,000, it will be returned to the board. With that, this brings us to a total of about 3 million. Moving on to page 2, for expenditures, we're looking to spend a total of about 4.1 million. We have a fund balance of 2.6 million. Currently, we don't have any issues or any immediate concerns, but in the future, we may want to discuss possible fee audits and fee increases to retain a healthy balance. Months in reserve is if for some reason we were not to have any funds in revenue, we can still do business for 7 months before we have a negative balance. Again, these are projections based from fiscal month 10. It will be more accurate as the year moves on. And for the, moving on to the expenditure projection report based from fiscal month 10, for personal services, we are showing about 180,000 in surplus. In OE&E, we're looking at about 596,000 with the AG included. This leaves the projected overall totals at $3.9 million. The $3.9 million is currently what we have in the fund condition with reimbursements. As you can see, based on the fiscal month 10 actuals, we're projecting to year-end balance of $776,000 in reversion, which is the 16.4%. And because of that, we are comfortable with where the board is. Please let me and Ms. Milano know if you have any questions or concerns.
Thank you kindly, Niet. Board members, any questions? Hearing none, I can move on to the staffing update. Thank you kindly, Niet and Madam Milano, for helping provide the budget report. For the staffing update, I'm happy to share that the Central Services Manager position has been filled. That position started on April 14th, and they've been becoming an integral part of this office, and they've played a big role in preparing for this board meeting. So it's very encouraging to have our Central Services Manager here. Thank you and welcome to Marissa Ochoa, who joins us from the Budget Office with over 6 years experience working with the DCA Budget Office. Additionally, we've just finished the hiring process on the enforcement analyst position that was vacated in March, and this individual will be starting on July 1st. So we're happy to have an additional member in our enforcement unit. Brings our total to 3, and we'll be looking to address any backlogs that we have. And again, as we'll see in the report, there's backlog is a natural part. We just want to make sure that we're moving things along through the process. And that concludes my staffing update. At the same time, this would be a good point to also introduce the facilities, as this will be affecting our staff. And we are working with the Department of Consumer Affairs to move our office to get a slightly bigger space in the actual headquarters building. And current projections are that we'll be moving into the space in September. And that is all. Thank you, board members. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Bodea.
Certainly.
I have a question. I know earlier you were mentioned on the budget update. May I still comment or have my question on that item?
Please, we're still on that item. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so I heard from the DCA budget analyst regarding the fee services. Looks like, so when do board need to start to consider that process?
Certainly, Madam. If we take a look at the months in reserve, this is the first document attached entitled California Acupuncture Board Fund Analysis of Fund Condition. Very bottom of the page, in the paper material version, it's on the second page for that document. You'll see the line item months in reserve, and you'll
Yes.
see that those reserves do go current year, would be 2021 as the CY column. We would be looking to have another fee audit, as is part of our strategic plan, to have a regularly occurring fee audit every several number of years. So I would say probably in the 2023 to 2024, on the cusp of the 2022 to 23 and the 2023 to 24 time period. We'd be looking to ask for a budget change proposal, perhaps to help augment the cost of the fee audit, as we are close to our limit for the budget. So if that is the case, we would be seeking a budget change proposal for that. Otherwise, it would be in that time frame that we'd be seeking that fee audit.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Bodea, for your clarification. And I don't have any other questions or comment. But is any other board member would like to have any comments?
I just one sentence. This is Yongping Chen. Congratulations to you, Bodea, and the staff. And you have a new office. And I heard from last meeting, the office is bigger and not cost more, right? So congratulations. That's my comment.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Yes, the office is slightly bigger to accommodate our staff, and it is cheaper per square foot than our current location. And we're right there in headquarters.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question on budget. Since the renewal fee increase, there any significant changes in the current budget status? Can you compare from the last year's and this year?
Member Kim, if I heard your question clearly, you were a little muffled. You're asking if with the new fee increase, have there been any changes to our budget? Any significant changes to our budget? These figures here do include projections based on the new fees, all except for the continuing education course application fee, which we do not have projections for because we don't have those numbers. So that's another reason why it would be beneficial to do the fee study at the time we discussed, so that we can have a year or two of actual data on how much money that is bringing in. So as we move through the next year and two, we'll start getting more updated, and we'll see that months in reserve. We'll see if that months in reserve line item will change for each budget year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Kim. Are there any other board member comments? Hearing none. Okay, I would like to open up to the public for comments. DCA moderator, could you please facilitate? Thank you.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that icon with a question mark within a square located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to give the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, seeing no requests for public comment, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank
All
you.
right, the Q&A panel is now closed.
Now let's move on to agenda item number 7, Business Modernization Update. Mr. Herdt, please.
Thank you, Dr. Matecki, and hello, everybody. So in reporting on our business modernization project, board staff continues to work with our partners at agency, the California Department of Technology, at DCA with the Office of Information Services, and the vendor InLumen in the development of a licensing management system. The board has completed 3 product implementation periods and functionality that is available to licensees now that also includes the ability to pay for the services online without talking to the board by credit card include the AC license renewal, the ability to apply, renew, and replace or cancel wall licenses, the ability to apply to take the California Acupuncture licensing exam, the ability to apply for the initial license is available online, the availability to retake the California Acupuncture licensing exam for retakers. So that's what's functional right now. Also currently under development is the continuing education portal, which will include provider initial and renewal applications, course approval applications with the ability to pay, and a licensee CE dashboard. Also, we will be also adding features like applications for active to inactive or inactive to active, license verification, and then AC and wall license replacement processes. And then in very future, later, probably around September, we will move into developing the enforcement module. And that's where we're at with that process. Thank you, Dr. Matecki.
Thank you, Mr. Herdt. Any board member will like to make a comment on this? I know for the last year, between you, Ben, and the staff, I know you guys have been working very hard on this business modernization. Any board members like to make any comment?
So currently the licenses can apply through the website. They can apply for license exam or renew their license and apply for the continuing education provider application. So those are the things that they can do right now.
Let me answer that one. The incoming things are let me go over the list just because you asked the question. We can kind of cover everything. So what's available right now is AC license renewal, the ability to manage wall licenses, apply, renew, and replace, ability to take the licensing exam, the ability to apply for initial license, the ability to retake the CALE, and then currently under development are the continuing education portal, which includes provider and initial renewal applications, course applications and payments, licensee dashboard for CE dashboard, and then also in the pipeline is applications for active to inactive and inactive to active, and then license verification processes for people who are out of state verifying their California licenses, things like that, and then AC and wall license replacements. So those are actively being developed right now, but they're not available. That last list starting with continuing education. So I hope that helps you out there, Francisco.
And just to put a little more detail on it, when Mr. Herdt mentioned the take the exam and retake the exam, what he's referring to is the application to take the exam and the application to retake the exam. Not actually take the exam itself online.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you for clarification.
Thank you. Any other board member have comments? There are none. So I would like to open up to the public for comments on this. DCA moderator, could you please facilitate the public comments? Thank you.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. And just as a reminder to members of the public, we will not be responding to raised hands from members of the public. So if you would like to submit a public comment, please use that Q&A feature. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, this is the moderator, and seeing no requests for public comment, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right. The Q&A panel is now closed.
Thank you. Now let's move on to agenda number 8, Board 2018 to 2022 Strategic Plan Status Update. Mr. Bodea, please.
Thank you kindly, Madam President. If our board members and the public would like to turn to materials for item 8, the strategic plan update. Page 1 starts with licensing. I can proceed. Item 1.1 in licensing was to develop and implement a computerized licensing exam. And this was completed in October of 2018. And we've been quite successful in continuing with this. And it's really helped both staff and our applicants. Item 1.2, seeking legislative or regulatory authority to require passing test of English as a foreign language, also known as TOEFL, score for applicants who have completed their education in a language other than English to enhance communication within the healthcare industry. And as noted, this item was presented to the Licensing Examination Committee in June of 2019. And the committee did request additional information regarding setting TOEFL requirements so that the board could match what is the standard for those trained domestically, that is in the United States, and who took the exam in English. And ACOM, or the Accreditation Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, were working with this. And last year, in May of 2020, they did issue a new version of the comprehensive standards. And so staff is currently reviewing this and will have more information for the committee at a future meeting. Item 1.3. Research the feasibility of establishing a clinical inspection program to promote compliance with the laws and regulations governing the practice of acupuncture in California. This is pending start. We anticipate to start this at the end of this year once we are through the sunset report. Item 1.4, improve pocket license material quality to reduce fraudulent activity. Staff have started researching with contractors, and contracts cannot be completed until the board has completed implementing all the licensing functions in the Connect system, which we anticipate to be done by Q4 of 2021, or the end of this year. And as Jay mentioned, that is in process right now for the BISMOD. Any questions from the board members on the licensing section? Hearing none. I'll move on to the next page, enforcement goals.
Sorry.
Please, Dr. Chan.
Yeah, please, can you explain right now what is the TOEFL requirement or the score requirement for master's degree from ACOM or from California, the Acupuncture Board or DCA?
Apologies, Member Chan.
What is the score requirement of TOEFL now?
I do not have that information ready for this item. This is just to review the strategic plan, but we can get into that at. I can get back to that to you with that information after the meeting.
Oh, so I just when I read the material from the education committee that we didn't have meeting, but I read the material. I saw somewhere it's like 61 for total score.
It Again, I don't have that information in front of me, as we were not prepared to discuss this item, purely the status of looking into this item.
Okay, okay. So find out later.
Correct.
Seems they're changing. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions from members as it pertains to the strategic plan update? Hearing none, I'll move to enforcement. Item 2.1, develop and implement continuing education provider audit process to increase compliance. This is in progress, and it commenced in fiscal year 2019-20 in Q3, and we paused during the pandemic. Audits will resume after the emergency waivers for continuing education expire. And so this will be for both providers and licensees. Item 2.2, recruit additional subject matter experts to meet the needs of the examination, enforcement, and education units to increase enforcement resources. This is ongoing, and we have been successful in bringing on 2 new enforcement subject matter experts, as well as at least 1 examination subject matter expert, and we are continuing to recruit for these positions. Item 2.3, research the feasibility of requiring licensees to maintain medical records in English to facilitate enforcement efforts and increase accessibility. This is pending, and we anticipate to start this at the beginning of 2022. Item 2.4, update the board's disciplinary guidelines to preserve consistency, fairness, and ensure effective consumer protection when taking disciplinary actions against licensees. This is in progress, and the board has approved the modified text and updates to the guidelines to align with AB 2138 at the December 2020 board meeting. The initial statement of reasons, also known as ISOR, is with the legal affairs for review, and we anticipate to file next month. Finally, in enforcement, item 2.5, amend regulations to implement uniform standards regarding substance abuse and healing arts licensees developed pursuant to Senate Bill number 1441 to safeguard the health and safety of licensees and consumers. And this also is in progress, and we anticipate filing this also in next month. Let me go ahead and pause right there and see if any members have any questions on the statuses of these items. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and move on to goal area 3, which is our education area. First item, 3.1, research and develop transfer credit evaluation policies and procedures to ensure compliance with education requirements. We are in progress with this. For internationally trained applicants per Assembly Bill 2190, regulatory language is being reviewed by the board at this meeting. And you will see this at tomorrow, as an agenda item for tomorrow. Item 3.2, conduct a cost analysis on training program curriculum application reviews to properly allocate costs and ensure training program compliance. We did complete that fee study in 2019, and we do plan on including this as well in the anticipated fee study. 3.3, review current curriculum standards to ensure it prepares licensees for entry-level practice and consumer safety. The 21 occupational analysis survey is complete. We're just received word that it has been completed. The survey itself and the report will be provided to the board next month, and we will be able to review it at the August board meeting. Item 3.4, define what constitutes live continuing education courses to ensure that hands-on training for continuing education in treatment methods is received in the proper setting with the appropriate supervision to practice on the public. And this is a pending start for the moment, as we are looking to finish the development of the CE portion before turning our attention to this, as well as complete the regulatory packages we currently have in our reg making calendar. Apologies, correction, AB 21 language will not be discussed tomorrow. The materials were not included at the last minute, as we had to do additional changes to the language itself. So staff, we just received those changes recently, so we didn't have enough time to move through the entire package to address all those changes, and this will be brought back to the board at a future meeting, hopefully in August. That is the end of the goal area 3. Any questions from the board members so far on that? Seeing none. Goal area 4, legislation and regulation. Item 4.1, recommending legislation relating to the number of times an applicant can can take the exam for licensure to reduce fraud and enhance qualification of licensees. This is in a pending status, and we were looking to align with other models throughout the nation. And there's been some changes where some of the testing authorities are allowing continued testing after failures. So we're going to be looking for more information here and bring back to the board the status as it relates to other professions testing. Item 4.2, investigate the feasibility of obtaining site inspection authority of licensees to increase enforcement resources and access. This is pending, and it was the start towards it was with the Wall License Institution of AB 779, and we'll look to then work with the legislature on any possible statutory authority to do non-complaint driven site inspection authority. Item 4.3, seek legislative citation authority over curriculum violations of training programs to enforce existing curriculum requirements established in regulation. This is pending with a start date of 2022. Item 4.4, review and update regulations to align with existing statutory requirements. And these are AB 3330, which was our fee change, has been completed, and in progress are SB 1236 language, AB 2190 language, AB 2138 language, SB 1441 language, and SB 1448 language. Item 4.5, research and seek amendments to Business and Professions Code section 4935, subdivision A2, to increase the penalty for violations to be equivalent with the penalty provided by Business and Professions Code section 585, to further deter violations and enhance consumer protection. This is pending as we complete the remaining items in our regulatory requirements, on our regulatory calendar. Thank you. And therefore seek to align to work with the legislature to get those amendments. We will be up for sunset review next year, so we'll be looking to see if we can work with the legislature to address that at that time. Item 4.6. Implement a continuing education course and monitoring fee structure pursuant to Business and Professions Code 4945, subdivision B, to allocate the cost of the process to the continuing education provider applicant. And this was completed with the implementation of AB 3330. Please forgive the typo there. It's not 3333, on January 1st of 2021. I'll go ahead and stop right there for any board member questions. Hearing none, I'll move forward to goal area 5, outreach. Develop and implement a communication plan to inform the public about the practice and regulation of acupuncture, of the acupuncture profession. Excuse me. This is in progress, and the communication plan has been developed in collaboration with DCA's Office of Public Affairs. We do have listserv functionality as that went live last year, and Twitter and Facebook sites will be planned for later this year. Item 5.2, develop and release a digital newsletter to inform, educate, and update the public on the practice of acupuncture in California. This is pending as we work through a number of these items. Item 5.3, determine and communicate licensing reciprocity to and from California to convey California standards to the public and ensure consumer protection. This was completed at the October 2018 board meeting in a presentation on those reciprocity statuses. Item 5.4, update and publish an informational brochure to educate the public on the standards of practice. This has been completed, and that it's based on legal guidance with legal counsel. The brochure represents a conflict of interest for the board, as the board's role is not to promote the profession, but to regulate it. However, it is within the profession's purview to provide that information about acupuncture services to the public. Any questions or comments from the board members on goal area 5, outreach?
This is member Yongping Chen. Last meeting, we mentioned social media. Social media is more and more popular, play more and more important role in outreach in the public media system. So I'm glad to see the board is already doing the Twitter and the Facebook. I myself does not get Twitter or Facebook much, but I can see the positive impact to the California consumers to get information, to be informed about this acupuncture practitioner. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Yes, we are hopeful that it'll be up later this year. The Twitter and Facebook pages are not up as of yet, but they are planned to be up later this year. Excellent. Goal Area 6, Board Administration. Item 6.1, conduct a yearly workload study to ensure adequate staffing levels. This is a status update since the start of the strategic plan. These were completed from 2018 through 2020, and this year's is in progress. So we are meeting our target there. Item 6.2, map the board's business processes to procure an information technology system that addresses the board's functions. The business process mapping for licensing and enforcement units were completed in the spring of 2018, and the admin unit is finalizing the map processes at the moment, and we anticipate to be completed with this by the end of the summer. Item 6.3, conduct a fee study at the appropriate time to address the board's budgetary structural imbalance. As noted in our budget update, this was completed at the August 2019 board meeting, and we would be seeking to do that again in the next few years prior to the end of this strategic plan. Item 6.4, respond to DCA's routine internal audit to address any findings. And the status is that the 360-day follow-up report was submitted to the DCA Audit Office in February of 2020. So we're good there. And item 6.5, expand targeted training and materials to educate board members on board governance and subject matter. Pause with the vacancy. This item was paused during the vacancy of the Essential Services Manager. And now that position has been filled, we anticipate to resume developing this material in partnership with the DCA as well by this fall. Any questions from the board members on Area 6, Goal Area 6, Board Administration? Thank you kindly. Madam President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Bodea. I just can have an overall thank you for the presentation with give the update about the strategic plan. And I just have a question regarding, looks like, I added all together, maybe there's a 50% completed. And the next year will be 2022. So maybe, do we know how much we will continue finishing up, or there will be quite a few items still left for the plan?
Yes, with strategic plans, there are definitely times when not all the items are completed, while our goal is to address that as close to fully as possible. There are some setbacks that programs do experience, and in this case, the pandemic did set us back a little bit, but we are hopeful that a number of these items will be completed as well. It's with us moving also into the sunset report, it's a little unclear at the moment what that percentage would be, but we are hopeful that we will continue, and I will provide an update to the board again at the next year's summer meeting or second meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Bodea. Are there any other board member with comments?
So all these goals have been on the it is implementing on the schedule, right? Yeah, like for the sunset review.
So the sunset review report will begin just after this meeting. We will be receiving the new template. We do have the last year's template for the sunset report, which management has been reviewing, but we will be getting this year's template next week. So I will have more information for the board at that time, after that time. And the recommendation would be that the board president establish an ad hoc committee of 2 members so that they can work with staff on the report, and that way we don't have to have a board meeting to review the report. And then once the ad hoc committee and staff have finished the draft, we can bring that to the full board to review. And so a lot of our processes will be, a lot of our research will be slowing down just so that we can address this report, but business will be moving forward. We will still continue working with the BizMod team, business modernization team, still doing our licensing and enforcement functions, just focusing our research time on the report itself. Does that address your question, Member Kim?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bodea. Thank you, Member Kim. Are there any other board member comments? Here now, I would like to open up to the public comments. BCA moderator, could you please facilitate the public comments? Thank you.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. And it looks like we do have one individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Neil Miller. Neil, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Neil Miller for Cal ATMA. Please note that 3 minutes is impossible to respond to 6 pages of the board's goals. So it's an unrealistic request. Number 1.2, where it talks about ACOM, I'd like to make a note that the records show that ACOM is now going to an English only, and we believe that this is a racist policy that doesn't match with California standards, being that we do have our exams, and we do teach classes in different ethnic languages, and that should be so noted by the board. Item 2.2, where it talks about getting more subject matter experts. I served as a subject matter expert in another state, and what I realized is that one subject matter expert sees one thing one way and another subject matter person sees another. So I'd like to know down the road, what is the criteria for being a subject matter expert so that we can promote what the rules and criteria are so that we make sure that we have top quality subject matter experts that reflect the widest range of practices here in California. Number 3.3, it talks about the curriculum standards and the occupational analysis. I've been through going through this for 30 years, and what happens is that there's no institutional memory between one board to the next board. I did submit documents to the executive director regarding the curriculum competency hearings that were held in the past, and I hope that he will distribute that to the board, because nothing has changed in 18 years at looking at this subject. The profession has been saying again and again that the curriculum standards need to be improved. And in evidence of that, all of these years later, so many of the schools are moving on to an entry-level doctorate program, which absolutely proves my point. And it is quite evident if you look at the curriculum competencies task force report and look at the details. And I did send that to Ben for your perusal.
30 seconds.
Number 4.5 talks about preventing violations, and we have been saying this year in and year out that we want to work with the board to be more proactive in the area of stopping violations, and we believe that this is one of the weak places where we haven't been reaching out, and we really want to set a standard going before the sunset review to show the legislature that the acupuncture board is working with the associations to be proactive to keep the violations down. Number 5.1, where it talks about the development.
This is the moderator. I apologize, but we have reached our allotted time for public comment, and therefore I have muted the individual. And it appears there are no further requests for public comment. Board President, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Let's see. I appreciated the public comments, and I understand that there is quite a few items. So I would like to ask Mr. Bodea, would you like to let the public comments to finish on these items? Maybe just give you extended another 2 minutes.
That works, Madam President.
Yeah, apologize. I would like to hear more from the public. So if moderator, would you please help if it's possible to bring that public comments to continue finish on this?
Yes, Neil, I'll be unmuting your microphone again, so I will be unmuting now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President and members. To continue, 5.1 talks about the development and implement of a communication plan to inform the public about the practice and regulation of acupuncture. This is another one of those issues that goes from one board to the next board to the next board in every strategic plan, and we seem to fall flat. So I'm enthusiastic that this board and this strategic plan will be better implemented, and that will reach your goal. Number 5.4, this is a real issue for CalAtma and for all of the profession. We could not disagree with legal opinion more. And, we can get another legal opinion if legal counsel is of this opinion. The Acupuncture Board had a consumer guide to acupuncture. They have published, I believe, 5 or 6 different versions over the past 35 years that I'm aware of. There has not been one version since Jerry Brown was in office. I do present and recommend that you do this consumer guide to acupuncture. I know that it really does help the consumer to understand, not necessarily understanding acupuncture and the promotion of acupuncture, but the reality of what an acupuncturist does. And so that the consumer is better informed of what it is that we do. I would like for each of the acupuncture members of the board to look at some of the consumer guides to acupuncture and to put this on a further agenda for further discussion. I would love to have this discussion with the legal counsel or to get another legal counsel to address this issue. But there is a precedent for publishing the consumer guide to acupuncture. It's incredibly effective, and it's one of the biggest highlights that I get from patients and from teaching ethics classes at all the different schools that I teach at, because this helps acupuncturists to understand what consumers are being taught, and it helps the consumers know what it is that we can do without any violations. And this goes to serve the whole concept of being preventative and proactive, so that we can reduce the numbers of problems that we have in enforcement. Thank you very much, board members and Madam President, for allowing me to continue and finish my statements.
All right, this is the moderator, and it appears there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel at this time?
Yes, please. Thank you, moderator.
The Q&A panel is now closed.
Thank you. So now let's move to agenda item number 9, licensing report, quarter 3, fiscal year 20 to 21. Mr. Herdt, please.
Thank you, Dr. Matecki. So I'd like to just start off with speaking a little bit about the occupational analysis that was just completed, and thank all of our licensees that responded to it. The final data that we used, we had qualified California people responding of 2,795, which is 23.63% of the population, which the our partner OPS was thrilled with, and that's using the active license number of particular people living in California of 11,828. We actually had 3,220 responses, and some of those were from out of state. Now, any licensed California acupuncturists that completed the survey with 75 or less items blank was awarded CEs, but because it's a study in California, we had to limit the response to that 2795. So just really a shout out to our licensees for jumping on that and doing it. I think it's going to really, really help us have a much more accurate occupation analysis, and it's just great that we had that level of participation. So thank you all. Okay, so to start with the actual licensing report right now, to start with, in terms of licensing statistics, we have, for the active field, I'll just give you a little bit of a background on that. That includes all of our valid licenses. So valid license would include an active, inactive, and anybody who's delinquent. It doesn't include any canceled licenses or revoked licenses, things like that. So looking at that number, for the quarter 3 report, we had 12,195 active licenses. And just for a frame of reference, in fiscal year 2019, 2020, we had 12,247. And then for the year before, 18-19, we had 12,353. So you can see that the trend is this just fairly slow dropping of our licensing numbers right now. So we've seen that consistently. And then teasing out the inactive numbers, our inactive count was 2,331. And again, if you watch that trend just in this quarters, the inactive number is slightly increasing each quarter. And that was going on yearly as well. And then if we move to delinquent, that number is slightly increasing as well. And if we move on to for the delinquent, we have 1,197. For the canceled license, we're at 82 for this last quarter, which is a little bit of an increase from the previous quarter. And then moving on to our initial licenses that have been approved, we had 63 new licensees in the month, and actually that's slightly lower than the last quarter, but it looks like it's pretty similar, just depending on the statistics there. And in terms of initial applications denied, there were none. So then moving on to continuing education, and I just like to preface the continuing education comments to just message everybody that due to the governor's executive orders, there's been a delay of CE compliance granted by waivers. So this affects any licensee who is renewing from March 2020 through July 31st of 2021, and allows all of those licensees to delay compliance for their CEs until December 3rd of 2021. And so that compliance may affect some of the issues with our CE numbers, and particularly during our kind of pandemic time. And you can kind of see that this last quarter we had a little bit of a drop in applications. So for quarter 3, we had for new CE provider applications that were approved, we had 60 new providers. There were no applications for providers denied. We received 575 course applications, and of those applications, 570 were approved, so there was 5 denials. And as of Q3, we had 523 current CE providers. So that's where that's at. For fiscal year 2021 application for board approval of curriculum, these are schools looking for their curriculum approval for the board. In Q3, we had 2 approvals. We received 2 applications in Q3, and those applications are in progress right now. And also in Q3, we approved 5 applications. And if you noticed in Q2, there was 5 applications that came in. And then also just the final statistics for Q3, one program lost its approval, and the reason they lost its approval had to do with failure to meet accreditation standards and losing that approval. So they did have curriculum approved by the board, but they failed to meet accreditation, and without that, they cannot be considered an approved educational and training program. And then finally, if we move on to the acupuncture tutorial training program. In Q3, we got 4 new applications. There were also 5 applications that were approved. 1 program got completed and 1 program got terminated, with a total of 38 active programs in the tutorial program. And that concludes my licensing report.
Thank you, Mr. Herdt. Are there any board member comments?
For the continuing education, I believe all of the continuing education is been provided online. Looks like the number each quarter has been actually second quarter was up almost twice, but the quarter goes down. So you think it's because of the fee increase, or is there any relation to
Member Kim, it's a little difficult to hear you, but if I did capture what you said, you're asking if if staff have identified a reason of why there's a dip in the number of providers in Q2 courses. Is that correct?
Yes. I see the application received and approved is pretty much the same, but the applicants been increased last October and December, and now it's pretty much the same as before.
Yeah, and the October. Go ahead, Jay.
I can speak to that. With the new course fees coming in January, there was some processing pieces for them to do. So if you're looking at this is the first quarter starting in January of this year through March, right? So I think that there's just a processing. I know that we have many applications in processing right now. So as Ben's referenced before, when you get a full yield, we'll get some more experience with that. It's just too early to tease out what's really going on. We're getting almost no comments around the fees or anything along that line, and we've actually had some. We're getting new providers that are new to it submitting many applications. So data will be incoming with it. The other thing is we had so many courses before that were ongoing that were barely being used, and so with the fees there may be some. And again, this is just pure speculation. So I'm going to stop right there and leave it at that. Thank you.
And just to add, there is what we see generally is at the end of the calendar year, CE providers are looking to publish their next year's curriculum that they'll be offering. So usually there's a push towards the end of the year, the end of the calendar year, for their courses to be approved so that they can advertise in time for the new year. Additionally, there was communication with CE providers that the fees were being instituted starting January 1st. So there would have been a push. As you see, there was an increase between July and September, from July and September to October and December as well. And now a drop post fee implementation, but not a stop.
Yeah, I see that. Thank you.
Well, and I can even add to that a little bit more. People who were applying for courses before the end of the year were able to have a single-time course approved. So there was definitely a rush to get a bunch of stuff on the calendar for CE providers. So again, a number of factors. We'll know more when we have our final data.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Herdt, and thank you, Member Kim. Any other board member comments?
Yes, President Matecki. This is Yongping Chen. I would like to ask Mr. Herdt, how many percentage of the courses are online? How many are, probably 0 is on site, right?
Dr. Chen, right now we're during the pandemic, we've allowed any approved live webinar to be offered. I mean, any approved course that was approved for live to be offered as a live webinar. And then also there's a number of distance educations that are available online, although I don't have any percentages of how much are being online, but I do. There's definitely some live ones taking place, but really I would say that we're running a high percentage of them being online right now, and that's just definitely due to the pandemic.
Yeah, I would assume that. So I think maybe one reason of the Q3, the C provider number dropped 20 or 30 something from the previous quarter was because some providers, they cannot offer the online CE courses. So the providers, you can do online, they continue. If they cannot, they don't know how to do the online, use Zoom or webinar or some other media, they cannot continue. Maybe that's a reason. So as pandemic slow down, maybe we can see the change. So that's my one point. And second is about the license, the number of initial license application approved, 63, compared with Q1, Q2, no big difference. So it seems the overall total number of the active licensees number, if we expect is increasing, then it is slowly decreasing. But if we consider the pandemic, this factor, then probably it's normal. So it'd be interesting to see how it will be next year. That's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Any other board member comments?
Madam President, I'd like to take an opportunity for an update as well, if possible.
Yeah, sure. I think Mr. Bodea, I see Vice President Chan.
Please.
Would you want Vice President first? Would that be okay? Or
Certainly.
okay. Yes. Vice President Chan, I see. Did you like to make a comment? Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Bodea. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. This is, being that this is the licensing report, I wanted to provide the board an update on the request for a executive waiver on the clinical distance education that the board had been working through in the last year. And I've spoken with the department and the director on this, and it is being reviewed by the administration. And I just want to say thank you to Director Kirkmeyer and the DCA for shepherding this request through the administrative process. We hope to hear in the next few weeks a response.
Thank you, Mr. Bodea, for the update. Any other board member have comments? No? I just like to mention the licensee number little bit decline, as Dr. Cheng mentioned, and maybe this is not too much differences, but I see in the other profession, for example, in the physician world, we have a lot of patients came back and tell us that their doctor retired. And some of the doctor is normally they would continue practice with their age, but seems like right now the physicians retired a little bit younger and early too. So I don't have the data, but I just wanted to see, maybe there's a part of the pandemic, changed a lot, even for the other profession also. Being said, I don't have any other comment, and thank you, Mr. Herdt, and thank you, Mr. Bodea, for your team for this wonderful update. Any other board member like to make a comments before I open up to the public?
Yeah, I also noticed that a lot of patients reporting their doctors being retired, but also at the same time, I think it's just a global impact from the pandemic. Even the physicians are not seeing as many patients as before because they kind of delay any regular checkup and all that. So that's one of the reasons, and I think it happened to the acupuncture licenses too. So see how it goes.
Thank you, Member Kim.
May I speak? Have one more point?
Yes, please, Dr. Chen.
Thank you, President Matecki. So meanwhile, in the end of pandemic, I assume, hopefully, right now, this last few months, actually, the patient come to see acupuncturist. As I know, all the acupuncturists are very busy. So post-pandemic, people have psychological impact, stress, the anxiety, and some damage from the virus. Just a lot. My clinic is very busy, and I know some other people in Los Angeles, Southern California. Everybody seems busy, and they reopen the clinic, and they're looking for the office. So I said it would be interesting to see how the number goes next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. I just want to echo what you said. It is indeed, I have seen that in my practice also, because of those patients post the COVID pneumonia patients, and Western medicine has offered certain, support, but there's a lot still limited, and I believe the CDC currently is working on the guideline. There is a really limited for what Western medicine can provide besides physical therapy, oxygen, and a pulmonologist. So some of my patients actually on the lung transplant program, they came to our practice as really want to working with. There is a possibility, Chinese medicine played a role. So I echo what you said. So I think this can be another great opportunity for the licensees. Anyway, I would like to thanks all the board member for your comments, and if anyone else like to make a comment, otherwise I would open up to the public. Okay, let's open up to the public for comments. DCA moderator, could you please facilitate the public comments?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, this is the moderator, and it looks like we do have one individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Dylan Stan. Dylan, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Hi there, this is Dylan Stan from Net of Knowledge. I just wanted to offer a little point because the question came up as to whether the reduction in the continuing education course applications in the first quarter was maybe due to the fee increases. And I just wanted to give you a little update. I'm sure at least all of the board members are aware of our discussions at the last couple of meetings. I've been hearing from a number of providers who have actually already stopped getting California board approval for their courses entirely, a number of them, and also some providers who, of course, are going to need to make significant cuts and be very selective to the courses that they're going to need to be, or that they would have normally been approving. So, one interesting thing with the report is that it's covering new course applications, and I would actually hope that you guys monitor this and continue to listen and look at the concerns that we've raised, because you may actually see an increase in course applications. I'm anticipating as larger providers are forced to renew their distance education courses towards the end of the year. But I think you'll actually see a drop off overall of new course applications as people become more and more selective, and the offerings will really be reduced. So your report covers course applications, but it would be interesting if perhaps next time you added in the total course offerings that are available, and you could look at that quarter to quarter and see, is there a reduction? Because while the actual course applications may stay the same or be reducing, really there are going to be dramatic losses to the available continuing education options for California practitioners. And I just wanted to say too that, as to our last letter, there were 31 of us stakeholders on that last letter that we were reaching out to you, and we're all wondering what the board's response is. The staff made some comments to us over email saying that there's not much we can do.
30 seconds.
They encouraged us to go to the legislature ourselves, but we really want the board to be involved in the solution with us. We feel like the board helped to actually bring these fee changes, wordings into place as they are, and the board should be involved with stakeholders in a solution. So we're listening, and we hope that you reach out to us and continue to work with us on this. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator, and it looks like we do have another individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Neil Miller. Neil, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Neil Miller from CalAtma. In the last year, one of the things that we have noticed in California is that more and more of the associations are providing the CEs for their members. In California, we have so many of the English as a second language associations, and they provide CEs to their members in Japanese and Chinese and Korean on a regular basis. And CalAtma has been reaching out to those groups, and we've been trying to translate some of that knowledge into English. And some of our English seminars we've been translating into Korean. We had one recently, a seminar that we did in English, and now we are reaching out to all the different Korean groups. So one of the reasons why I think that we're seeing more applications is that more Californians are investing their CEs in California providers, whether they be the schools or some of the more well-known providers in California are working with associations, giving discounts to associations, and trying to keep some of that money reinvested into our associations to promote California and the various stakeholders that are here. So that's another trend in terms of maybe why there's an uptick in applications, because we're trying to have the same classes that are in non-English classes in English and back and forth. So that's the end of my comment.
All right, this is the moderator, and it appears there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you, moderator.
The Q&A panel is now closed.
So thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, the public and the board member for made comments on this. So it is 1:54 right now, and I'm just seeing, shall we take a 15 minutes break and let's resume at 2:15.
16.
2:15, I'm sorry. We resume at 2:15.
Thank you, Madam President. We'll go ahead and take a break.
Thank you.